Weapons that are still used today from the Vietnam War. Have you ever come across a photo of a modern U.S. soldier holding an old M1911 pistol and wondered what it would have looked like if that same firearm was being used during the Vietnam War? Or perhaps you've seen pictures of the new Sig Sauer MCX rifle and wondered how it might have fared against the Viet Cong in the jungles of Southeast Asia. In today's video, we're going to do just that. We'll take a look at some of the most interesting firearms and equipment from the Vietnam War era and see how they compare to modern counterparts. So grab a cold one and join me for this edition of Forgotten Weapons from the Vietnam War that are still used today. The United States has been fighting wars since before it was even the United States. During the Revolutionary War, militiamen armed themselves with whatever they could get their hands on, whether it was a musket, rifle, or even a shotgun. But there were also some more exotic weapons used during this time period, such as the Bowie knife. This weapon is named after its inventor, James Bowie, who was an American frontiersman and soldier. It consists of a long blade with a sharp point at one end and a cross guard near the handle. The most common length for these blades ranged between 6 to 12 inches, making them longer than your standard combat knife but shorter than a sword. These knives were popular among soldiers because they were effective for close-quarters combat, especially when fighting in tight spaces such as aboard ships or inside buildings. They could be used for stabbing, slashing, and even throwing if necessary. The Bowie knife remained popular throughout the 19th century and into the 20th century, eventually falling out of favor around World War II. However, it saw a resurgence in popularity during the Vietnam War, where it was carried by many U.S. troops as a supplementary weapon. The knife proved useful for clearing away underbrush while navigating through the thick jungle terrain. And it was also helpful for self-defense against both human and animal threats. One famous instance of the Bowie knife being used in combat occurred during the Battle of Ap back in 1963, when a group of U.S. Marines came under heavy fire from Viet Cong forces. As the situation became increasingly desperate, one Marine used his Bowie knife to clear away trees blocking their path and allow them to escape. Although largely overshadowed by other conflicts, the Vietnam War was one of the first wars where helicopters played a significant role. The Bell UH-1 Iroquois or Huey helicopter became an iconic symbol of the war, transporting troops into battle and evacuating casualties. This iconic aircraft was first introduced into military service in 1959 and quickly became known for its reliability and versatility. Its single-rotor design made it easier to maintain than other helicopters at the time, while its large cabin could carry up to 6 passengers plus a pilot. During the Vietnam War, the Hueys were flown by both sides, although they were primarily used by the U.S. military due to its superior power. These helicopters were instrumental in supporting ground troops, providing air support, and medical evacuation services. This was so important to the war effort that entire units were dedicated to providing security for them as they flew into hot landing zones. Despite their importance, these aircraft were vulnerable to enemy fire and many were shot down during the course of the conflict. When flying into hostile territory, each crew member had their own assignment in case the aircraft was attacked. The pilot would fly the helicopter using his collective and cyclic controls while the other crew members protected him from incoming rounds with their M16 rifles. If they were hit, the door gunner would jump out and defend himself with his M14, Brinks gun, or a pistol, while the assistant gunner provided cover with a .45 caliber pistol. If all else failed, the medic was trained to land the helicopter in an emergency. While the K-47 may be more popular, the M16 was the primary weapon of the Vietnam War for U.S. forces. Weighing only 7 pounds, it had a 20-inch barrel and fired a lightweight bullet that allowed it to have a greater range than any other submachine gun of its day. Although the initial production model had issues with jamming, the weapon was reliable once those bugs were worked out. The M16A1 variant replaced the aging M14 and saw extensive use during the Vietnam War. Although not as well known as the M16, the M4 carbine was also used extensively during the Vietnam War. It had a shorter 16-inch barrel and was chambered for the same 5.56 NATO round, making it more maneuverable in close-quarters combat. Like the M16, the M4 was initially plagued with problems related to its new lightweight ammo, but these issues were eventually resolved, and the weapon proved to be highly effective in combat. While the M4 was originally designed as a squad support weapon, it was sometimes used as a personal weapon by Special Forces operators. It was considered more accurate than the M16 and had a shorter barrel that made it easier to maneuver in tight spaces. Originally developed in the late 19th century, the Maxim gun was one of the first machine guns to use a recoil-operated action. This made it simpler and more reliable than previous designs, and it quickly became popular among militaries around the world. The gun consisted of two parts, a water-cooled barrel and a tripod-mounted base. 1917A1 variant was produced for the U.S. military during World War I and saw extensive use during the conflict. It was capable of firing up to 500 rounds per minute and used a 60-round drum magazine. After the war, the Maxim gun remained in service until World War II, where it was eventually replaced by newer, more advanced machine guns. Despite being outdated, the Maxim gun was still used by some militaries during the Vietnam War, including the South Vietnamese Army. Nicknamed the Warthog, the A-1E Warthog was a twin-engine prop-driven aircraft that was designed for the U.S. Air Force in the late 1950s. It was primarily used as a close air support aircraft, providing firepower to troops on the ground. With a top speed of 345 miles per hour, the A-1E was not fast, but it was durable and could withstand heavy gunfire without losing power. It was also equipped with a variety of armaments, including 7.62mm machine guns, 40mm grenade launchers and bombs. Despite its effectiveness, the A-1E was eventually phased out in favor of newer, more advanced aircraft such as the F-15 Eagle. However, it continues to be used today by several foreign air forces, including Israel, Mexico, and Morocco. The Colt Python is a revolver that was first introduced in 1952. It quickly gained popularity among civilians and law enforcement officers due to its reliability and accuracy. The revolver was available in several calibers, ranging from the small .22 LR to the powerful .357 Magnum. It also featured a unique design with a fluted cylinder that allowed for faster loading times than other revolvers of its day. Although it was not officially adopted by the U.S. military until 1980, the Colt Python was still used by some Special Forces operators during the Vietnam War. At the time, handguns were not commonly used by frontline troops, but they were still popular among those in support roles such as intelligence operatives or undercover agents. The last weapon we'll look at is the M72 Light Anti-Tank Weapon, or LAW. This is an American rocket-propelled anti-tank weapon system that was developed in the early 1960s. It was designed to be lightweight and portable, allowing soldiers to easily carry it into battle. The weapon consists of three main components: a launch tube, a rocket, and a detonator. When fired, the rocket would travel towards its target and detonate upon impact, causing significant damage to enemy tanks or armored vehicles. The M72 was particularly useful during the Vietnam War as it allowed U.S. troops to effectively engage heavily armored targets that were previously difficult to destroy. Its lightweight design also made it ideal for air insertion, meaning that paratroopers could quickly deploy the weapon and engage enemy forces before they had a chance to react. The M72 has since been updated several times, with the latest version, the M72A4, still in service today. It has seen combat in various conflicts around the world, including the Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan, and the war in Iraq. So there you have it, a look at some of the most interesting weapons used during the Vietnam War that are still in use today. What did you think of the weapons we covered? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to check out our other videos on forgotten weapons from other wars as well. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an exciting episode. Thanks for watching.